Now this is showing the same as I've got. That's a good sign now, because it wasn't before. So this is a very, very brief history of electric signals on the N and W, and it is only the N and W. I stop at 1982. And what I want to explain to people is what the signal indications mean, why all the signal heads almost everybody looks at one and says, well, that one's not the same as that one, that one's not the same as that one. And there's a good reason for all that stuff. So this is your basic block signal. It shows 3 possible indications. These started being installed in 1937. Was the first set of position light signals. You have to remember, I wasn't smart enough to take pictures when I was a kid before the lights started turning colors.
It's best to say all the lights were, what do you say, all the lights were yellow.
All the lights were yellow, but they weren't yellow. They were a different color of yellow. They were fog penetrating yellow, which was more of a lemon shade than what you see on a regular 3-position light signal. So if you really want to drive somebody nuts, try and find the right shade of yellow LED.
I think Winston Link called it cadmium yellow in one of his recordings, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So vertical signals, it was originally designed to look like a semaphore signal from a distance, is why they did the positions the way they did. So it looks like an upper quadrant semaphore signal. So in 61, and as near as we can tell, nobody can prove a true cause and effect relationship, but there was an accident on the Peavine in 59 or 60 where a train ran a signal and rear-ended another train, and they, even with the fog penetrating lights, they blamed it on the lights, so they decided that they would use colors in addition to position so that you would have kind of redundancy. So to get a clear signal, there has to be 2 empty blocks ahead of you. So that means you've got more than enough time to stop before you hit the marker lights on that train that's in front of you. 2 empty blocks. So if you're going to do signals on your layout, you got to have room for 4 blocks, which could mean as much as 8 miles on a real railroad. So most of us don't have enough railroad to do a true set of signals, but we fake it and we tell the guys to stop a lot faster. Okay, then your second basic one is approach. Okay, an approach means that you've only got 1 clear block ahead of you. So you got to start slowing down. So the rule book says that train exceeding medium speed must at once reduce to that speed. So medium speed was generally considered to be, well, it changed in different rule books. And there are some division timetables that had special instructions that changed that particular number, but it meant slow down. And then in the later days, I consider these steam era and diesel era signals because they almost intersect perfectly. So in diesel era, you just didn't have to worry about that third light bulb. Okay, now this is where history starts confusing people. this is your stop and proceed signal. So a block signal was not absolute, because you could be out in the middle of the weeds somewhere and there was nobody to talk to. And if you came to that signal right there, you could stop and then proceed at restricting speed, which means being able to stop within half of your sighting distance until you came up on the marker lights of the train that was in the block right in front of you. The signals had number plates before, but that wasn't considered to be a defining characteristic until 67. In 67, that shows up in the diagram book that they started printing the number board specifically on the signal indication to say that it was a restricting or a stop and proceed. Then later, they decided that the trusted the engineers more, so that was no longer a stop and proceed signal, that was a restricting signal. So you could pass a red signal at restricting speed in the late diesel days. Then when we get into the more complicated things, so there was very few places that the N&W did this, but this is kind of turning into a 4-aspect signal system. So there would be 3 empty blocks between you and the next train to get an advanced approach. In the same way, simplified, and then the restricting here was first came out early, and they only used it in places where you were going up a steep grade and you didn't want to put a stop and stay signal or a stop and proceed signal because they thought it'd be too hard to start the train. So they used a separate head to make it a restricting signal. So you could proceed at restricted speed up the grade, so you didn't have to stop. And then some places they decided they didn't like that second head because it cost extra money to change them light bulbs every year. So they put in just this plate with a G on it, which says, "Tell the engineer he's on a grade," like he doesn't know that already. But you get to pass what used to be a stop and stay as a restricting signal. So the restricting signal there were like 5 different ways to display it in different times, in different places, in different track conditions. So it's one of the ones that gets confused a lot. So this is what it looks like in the oldest days. So that's the stripped down restricting signal. This is my favorite signal. Huh? Yeah, well.
Grundy, or where is it?
Yes. Yeah, but it's entirely redundant. Okay, so there's a second signal in this picture right here that tells you exactly the same thing. Because the yard limit sign tells you exactly the same thing. You get to proceed past here, but you have to stay at restricting speed. This is the only thing that fixed signal tells you. That's the signal engineer. I like to think of the signal engineer waving goodbye to you, because I don't know what's past here. You're on your own. So like if you're doing a layout and you're going into staging, every staging layout should have one of those in the front of it, but that takes all the fun out of it.
Oh, no, it's fun to look at.
What would the center lamp on the lower one be in this case? then?
That's a good question because it should never come on.
Thank you.
Well, that signal could display stop.
Well, it could, but who controlled it?
Well, the
If
display,
it's ABS,
switch then?
the signal system controls
Yeah, if it's
it.
ABS.
That
it's
signal
blocked.
could display a stop signal or restricted.
But
There's no number plate on it, so it's either a stop signal or a restricted.
okay, that one could.
See the switch machine there, power.
And you got a switch machine on power.
So if it was taking a diverging route, the red light would go out. So you'd have a yellow, red, yellow on that bottom head.
You'd have red on top and you'd have yellow.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yellow, red, yellow on that bottom arm. The center light would be red.
You have two reds at the top all the time.
Yeah, I understand it.
Okay.
That's what I said.
The bottom is either the center's red or out. If it's out, you got two yellows.
Yeah, that's what I said. So when you're building it, you need a yellow and a red and a yellow.
Oh, okay, yeah, I see what you're trying to do.
Where is his favorite signal over there?
That's at Grundy, Virginia.
That's a strange area. Boy, had to move the whole town.
Well, that's true.
So that's your basic run-of-the-mill railroading. When you get to the interlocking signals, then things get a lot more complicated. This is one of the few pictures I have, and you can't see it very well, that if you look at the cantilever arm on the left, notice how there's an arm sticking out to the other side? Well, there's another signal out there. It's a single light purple bulb, or used to be purple bulb. Then they took the bulbs out of them, and it's just the post is the signal to tell you that the track closest to the mast is unsignaled. Oh, thanks.
Batteries.
Fresh batteries. Yeah, so,
You can go out at night and then you can see the colors.
yeah. Yeah, right. They can't see the rest of anything, but right here you can. There's a little post that comes up about that tall, and that's a separate signal. A signal to tell you that it's an unsignaled track. That's why everybody loves me to give this clinic, because this is so simple.
It's called a doll mast.
No, not officially. Not in any rule book does it ever say that. Every other railroad in the country called it a doll mast or a doll signal, but the N&W never used that word. Yeah, I bet. And somebody had some experience on another railroad that got that term, but the N&W never used the word doll mast. So a diverging cleared, okay, so if you're at an interlocking signal, you have your through route, which is a straight line route, and then you have a diverging route when you're taking the side through a turnout. And like this one here, okay, so since switch is lined to the siding here, you've got a clear signal on the lower head, which says that you can proceed through that route at the medium speed. Now, in the early days of signals, they had some places where they had more than one diverging route, so you ended up with like 3 and 4 headed signals. And I didn't put a drawing in my presentation for that one. But if somebody wants, I'll show somebody if they want to see one. And originally, all of the lower heads didn't have backing plates. All that was there was just the spider and the lights. So if you're looking at them in pictures, you may not even see the lower head sometimes. So that medium clear, just like in the basic 3-block signal, tells you that you got clear blocks. So that means that that's got to be a signal track, a siding, or your starting double track at that point. Let's see, I forget where I got this one from, where I took this one.
It's like Waynesboro.
Oh, thanks. Then in 81, they started putting in flashing relays at some places. And so that was, if you don't model before 81, you don't have to worry about flashing lights any place in the signaling system. So this one is, you can read that, and if it's clear as mud to you, I understand it took me a long time to figure that one out, but that's what happens to get one of those. If you got routed through the siding and it was open at the other end, it would give you a diverging approach diverging, because you were going to have a diverging speed restriction because of the switch at the far end of the siding. But they took a lot of words to say that. Okay, diverging, yeah, and they changed names. We in the 45 and the 50 books, it was medium approach, and then it became diverging approach after 67. But the lights didn't change. And these things carried through because not every signal head got changed on the same day the rule book came out. It might be 2 or 3, 4 years before light bulb finally burned out in the top head and they decided to go blanket. So a diverging approach meant that you're going into the siding and you're going to see an absolute stop signal at the other end of the siding because the other train hadn't cleared or something along those lines.
Do you have an example of where that would have been, a location where they did that? I mean, an actual use of it? 'Cause I've only seen it when you go through a diverging route, you immediately diverge again, like immediately, like so you go
Right, you
30
could.
miles an hour, and then you got a 10-mile-an-hour turnout, 15 miles.
Right, yeah, that would call for the same signal too, but
The eastward signal at second, what was second crossing, approaching Randolph Street on the eastbound had one of these.
right.
I don't know what they have now, but that was the only application I ever saw on the old N&W.
The, nearly every siding on the Bristol had that. I mean, I've got pictures in Abington of this exact aspect.
When they were lined into and then
Lined
back
into-
out of the side.
Well, no, in this case, they're lined into and then they have to stop. I never saw the flashing, I never got to see the flashing yellow indication that they were lined back out.
Yeah, I mean, that didn't happen very often. I mean, that's not good dispatching, you know. Okay, so the terminal and normal condition that an interlocking home signal is in the stop and stay position. And that's usually because there's an intersecting route beyond that signal that you're going to broadside somebody or head in somebody, and it's not just a follow along. And that's why the second head has that light. And it drives people that model the Pensy and the N and W crazy because on the Pensy, the two indications are exactly opposite. On the Pensy, every block signal that is a stop and proceed has a marker light below it, and stop and stay does not. It's just exactly the opposite. And right. and I am not sure, and I finally got a supplement for the 63 employees timetable for the Scioto division to see how they handled that. When you left Columbus, you took off on what used to be signaled by the Pensy. So did you have to like smack yourself in the forehead every time you came to a signal and say, oh, is that a real stop or is that a stop and proceed?
That signal has a number plate and the S mark there tells you that's what that signal is.
Depending on the rule book year, those weren't always there, yeah.
I'm just kind of guessing the S may stand for stop.
It was, yeah.
The other one was G, wasn't it?
Huh?
Oh, we had another one was G.
The G was the grade one, yeah. Yeah, so all the home signals had S's below them until in 81 they must have started falling off of the signals because they started taking them out of the rule books. So I've just been showing the simplest thing. The passing sighting is your basic simplest interlocking signal. So in CTC territory, you would see these a lot. The interlocking signal, you can have lots more trackage arrangements, but they're all basically, well, they're all signaled in the same way. Except in the early ones, like I said, when you had 3 or 4 heads, this diverging head would turn on a diverging clear with a stop, approach, and then if it was on this other route, it would be stop, approach, stop. But they were treated differently back then. Okay, so, I got ahead of myself with the uncommon thing. So this is where we were talking about the not doll post. The unsignaled track indicator is the only thing I can find in a rule book. Approach restricting, and this is my favorite one. I don't think that somebody have to tell me where there might have been one out here. And where?
Cloverdale branch.
Cloverdale.
Coming off of Cloverdale branch, approaching the stop signal at Cloverdale.
Coming off of any branch, really, that you're coming into CTC.
It doesn't ever change, it just stays that.
Right. Okay.
There's been one on the Abingdon branch as well.
Okay. Well, out where I live, these things were like everywhere. I mean, where the Rock Island, pair of rust streaks crossed over the Chicago and Northwestern rust streaks out in the middle of Nebraska, and there was never ever a tower there. You would have these at all 4 directions because neither one of the railroads was signaled, but they didn't want people to run into each other at the crossing.
Were there stop signs at the?
So
In that case?
in that case, you could either have a stop sign or a swinging gate or a 2-signal red and green, or red and yellow. Sorry, you couldn't get a green because there was nobody to tell you had 2 blocks. So this is the logic tree in steam era. So when you're building your model signaling system, you would relate things together, and this is what you're going to see at different places. And when you're building that signaling system, it's easiest to start. Don't start with the way you're proceeding. You want to start signaling from the dead end and work your way back so that you get the right number of blocks and the right number of signal aspects in between. And then if you're think of it in that way, this logic tree starts to make sense. And that's all I got for you. Yeah, I haven't given this presentation in about 12 years.
Rick, one reason for the advanced approach signal is that there's a short block in there.
Right. Yeah. And there's a couple, and either a short block or short visibility.
Yeah. Glasgow was like that. Waynesboro was like that too.
Okay, so anybody want to try and confuse me with any questions now?
On NS, we had to put in advanced approach when the characteristics of the trains changed.
Uh-huh.
And they were heavier, needed more distance to stop, especially going downhill, so you have to back it up.
Right.
Going down the road.
Yeah, that's why I stopped in 82. That's a Norfolk Southern problem.
Life is.
Rick, I got one other comment. Back in the position light signals, maintainer was working on the signal at the north end of Cloverdale. He'd been working on it through the day. At night, that signal fell over. And 95 took us signal as clear and ran into number 2 that was hanging out of the side and at the south end of Cloverdale.
Oh, I don't think I read that accident report. Yeah, so depending on what area you're working on for models, I mean, when I started doing this, the only thing available was NJ Internationals. So and they made theirs for the Pensy, so you had to unsolder that marker lamp on the bottoms for your block signals and throw it away. And then when I tried to upgrade them to LEDs, it was a different story. And then the Oregon Rail Supply came out, and that works decent enough for the upper heads, because the upper heads always had, never say always, almost always had a complete circle background, and those work pretty good. But when you tried to do a lower head, especially if you were doing the early steam era, when they didn't put backgrounds in there, there was no way to separate the bulbs out. It was just beyond my fingers. But you could take the Oregon Rail Supply one, and with judicious application of your micro saw, you could saw 5 lights off of it. Am I good? Hey, oh man, plenty of time. I must have learned to talk faster.